Hello and welcome to Teton National Park. This is a beautiful day to see some beautiful mountains. So we're going to go inside and see what's inside this park, check out some Tetons, figure out what those are anyway. So thank you for joining us on Travel Our National Parks. Debbie and I had just been to visit Yellowstone National Park, which is only about 10 miles north of the Grand Teton National Park. So we were heading south into the park, and Grand Teton is about 310,000 acres. Its most striking features are these major mountain peaks that run about 40 miles long from north to south, all the way from the Yellowstone Range area down to the Jackson Hole or the town of Jackson. They are spectacular, some of the most beautiful mountain ranges that just jut up straight out of the water. But our first glimpse came when we reached Lake Marina, which is the northern end, and that's where Tetons start. And this view is spectacular. There's a great pizza place here, and the water is just crystal clear, so of course I had to take a look. As pretty as this place is, Debbie and I decided to hop back in the car and head further south. We were staying at the Coulter Bay Visitor Center area. The Coulter Bay area is the only place that we could find to stay. It's in the northern part of the park. It's not the most popular part. The Jenny Lake area is the most popular part. But the Coulter Bay Visitor area and complex is where we decided to stay. It's the only place we could get a room, actually. But it was nice anyway, and it gives you access to all of the park further south. So we pulled in here and decided to take a look around. We first stopped at the Visitor Center, of course, where we went inside to get our information and talk to the rangers. It's open 8 to 5, as most visitor centers are, and it includes not only the rangers and the information, but a few exhibits and more information about the park. The park was actually formed in 1929, but before that, early settlers had come for fur trading. But here you can get your stamp and look around the gift shop. It has your typical things for the family to buy and a little exhibit area to learn more about the history. Close to the visitor center was the cabin office where we actually had our reservations. Cabins are the only thing available in this park area that you can stay. And so that's where we had booked our reservations. They're just single room cabins that are quite old, but very interesting at the same time. Well, here's our cabin, 442. Let's go inside and check it out. Look, our cabin even has the original light switch. When's the last time you saw one of those? Many of the cabins were part of the Sheffield lodging operation. It was once located below the Jackson Lake Dam, but the Park Service moved these cabins to the Coulter Bay area in 1955. They also have tent cabins, but we chose the log wall cabins, and they've actually even upgraded them to electricity. But it was quite cozy, and it provided everything we needed. Coulter Bay Village area is located right on Jackson Lake, and one of the amenities there is the marina where you can rent kayaks and other things and boats and just enjoy the lake. But we decided to walk on the Coulter Bay Lakeshore Trail. This is one of the older trails in the park, and it's been there since the 50s. But it takes you around Jackson Lake. You just kind of got to watch out for the bears along the way, right? And there's postings, so just be careful and cautious and note for the signs. The park rangers will tell you what to look for. The wildflowers were just beautiful, and there was beautiful views of the lake and the mountains. And at the end of the trail, we could just see these gorgeous mountain peaks rising up above the lakes. So I'd highly recommend this hike. This Lakeshore Trail, it's a 2-mile round trip hiking trail, and we're going to speed things up just a little bit to get to the highlights of the trail. But from the Coulter Bay Marina, where we were at earlier, you can take 2 short loop hikes around, and it follows Jackson Lake, and they're connected by a causeway. The trail follows the shoreline of the lake and off to the Teton Range that's off to the west of the lake once you get there. And here it is, just absolutely beautiful. Debbie and I just relaxed and sat here and watched the clouds roll by in the water. What a spectacular view. After about 30 minutes, we just couldn't take it anymore. It was so beautiful. So we decided to leave and head back. We're at the John Coulter Visitor Center in this area, and we just finished walking the Lakeshore Foot Trail, which I would highly recommend. It was awesome. So the Visitor Center's over there, and we decided to walk right over here to the cafe court and get a bite to eat. It's a little afternoon. We're going to see what they have so we can refuel for the next hike. While there's not a whole lot to choose from on the menu, there's two places, the restaurant and then sort of like this cafe that has pizzas and sandwiches, which is where we chose to go. And the pizza was fantastic. You got to get you some of this stuff. It was wonderful, and we actually ate there twice. Right across the street from the restaurant is the general store, which happens to have a full grocery store and just about everything you need. So if you're camping or if you're going to stay a few days in the lodge, you can get anything you need there. Well, the next morning, Debbie and I got up early in the morning and we headed out south towards Jenny Lake. But our first stop was at the Willow Flats Overlook, which was just an area that you can see there. Hopefully you can see moose there and some other things, but several people had recommended stopping there for a minute, so that's what we decided to do. This is the Willow Lake Overlook. It's just halfway between Jenny Lake and Coulter Lodge that where we're staying, and it's a great little stop. Not only do you get a good view of the Tetons, but you're liable to see moose here eating the willow trees and things that they like. But we're going to take a look here just to see if we find anything. Regardless of whether you see moose or not, it's just an absolutely beautiful view. I don't know if you can see the Tetons in the background, but you can see the clouds below the mountaintop. Well, no moose this time, but anyway, we continued on, and I just couldn't take my eyes off the Tetons. I just constantly looked at them. This is the Mount Moran Overlook, and there you can see, I don't know how well you can see Mount Moran in the distance, and it has like a black stripe down the front of it, which is a different type of harder rock. But nevertheless, these mountains here, the Tetons, are some of the oldest geological rock formation in the country. Once again, we continued south towards Jenny Lake, but all along the way you can just pull off and sit in the shade and just to enjoy these beautiful mountain peaks and the clear blue water. We were back in the car on our way. Jenny Lake's our next stop. And let me tell you about this place, because we arrived there about 10 o'clock in the morning, but you better get there early if you want to find a parking place. Parking is limited, and there were cars just for miles along the main highway that runs north and south along the Tetons. But we managed to find a parking place. We were very, very lucky. But this area has lodging, of course the visitor center, and like Coulter Bay, it's a complete village complex with everything you need: general store, lodging, and many other amenities. This is the most popular place in the park. So not only can be crowded, but if you can make reservations here to stay, I'd highly recommend that. But good luck. They have a visitor center here it's relatively small, but they have a few gifts to buy and information there that is very helpful. The main attraction here, and the thing that we wanted to do the most, is ride the boat across Jenny Lake to the other side, and there you can take this trail to Inspiration Point. Tickets can be purchased inside the visitor center or actually at the dock, which is what we chose to do because we didn't know if we'd make it there in time. It's just a short ride across the lake, about 10 to 15 minutes, and tickets are $20 if you want a round trip, but only $12 if you want one way. Or you don't have to pay at all. You can actually walk all the way around Jenny Lake and walk back. We chose a one-way trip because we wanted to hike some, so once we got there, we hiked to Inspiration Point and walked our way back around Jenny Lake. The line was relatively long. It was about a 30-minute wait in line to purchase our tickets. But once we got there and purchased the tickets, it was a nice boat ride right across the lake. This water is incredible. It's beautiful. It is crystal clear. And we had the most beautiful day. It was about 75 degrees. You'll get a little lecture, and any questions that you have, the boat captain will answer those before you arrive at the dock.
Questions at all?
This was our favorite thing to do. So if you don't do anything else, at least take the boat ride or go hiking around the lake. There's waterfalls here. It's the most beautiful thing you've ever seen, and it's the most popular thing to do in the park. So it's well worth your time to get over here. We actually saw a moose here. I couldn't get it on video, but he was down there just laying in the shade and chewing on weeds. But the waterfalls here are spectacular. The hike to Inspiration Point is spectacular, and the views are just phenomenal. The air is clean and beautiful, and it's well worth your time. This trail is absolutely beautiful. These trees, it almost looks like virgin forest, but I don't know if any logging was done here or not, but nevertheless, the trees are huge. And you can see the mountains. I mean, just any direction you look, whether it's the waterfalls we just saw, moose, the mountains, the flowers. I mean, everything here is incredible. Just incredibly beautiful. And the trail is just so well prepared. This would have to be top of the list on your trip here. We're hiking up to Inspiration Point is one of the highlights of the trail. Look at the size of these trees. Golly. You know what's amazing to me is just the air. I mean, where's the diesel fumes? Where's the power plant smoke? I mean, the air is almost too clean to breathe. I can't stand it. It's just wonderful, just breathing in that clean, fresh, nice air, mountain air. And the neat thing is you're at the bottom of the Tetons. By crossing Jenny Lake, you're at the very foothills, the very bottom of these mountains that just stick straight up out of the ground. So everywhere you look up are mountain peaks. Well, so far the trail has been nice and flat and easy, which I would recommend this part alone if you just wanted to do that. But it was time to ascend on up to Inspiration Point, and boy did it ascend. Up, 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 up. Look how beautiful. We're headed up to Inspiration Point after Hidden Falls. This is supposed to be the highlight of the trail. Can't wait. Here she comes. As long as you take your time, you're fine. Just stop and wait and enjoy the views, the vistas, and even the flowers. It just keeps going up and up. Up, up, up. Grand Teton also has a lot of wildlife, not only just moose and other animals, but it even has the pikas. And we were very lucky to see a little pika scurrying around collecting food and foraging to build his home and food for the winter. These pikas are actually declining everywhere west of Grand Teton, and this is one of the few places that we were lucky enough to get to see one. Well, I was so inspired by the little pika that I decided to try to be one. and jump and climb up this hill, but that lasted about 10 seconds. So anyway, we decided to just trudge along, taking our time. But unfortunately, Debbie was a little afraid of heights, so she decided to wait and sit this one out, and I just carried on. It is a little precarious, and the trail is a little narrow at times. But we finally made it to Inspiration Point, greeted by the little critters and chipmunks. And the view was totally worth it. It was worth every bit of the trip, the boat ride, the hike, the climb, and everything there in between. This was the most beautiful view in the park. The mountains surround you, you can overlook Jenny Lake, and it was just spectacular. Okay, we're going down. Debbie decided not to come all the way up to Inspiration Point. This hike is well worth the view, but you know, if you're not comfortable with heights or precarious trails, it might not be the best thing for you. So I couldn't wait to get back down and see Debbie and continue on our trail. Once you're down, you just continue on this beautiful, flat, easy trail through the woods. And it's just fantastic to see all the greenery and the beautiful sights of nature. Well, we've been to Inspiration Point, and we're headed back to the parking lot, back to Jenny Lake, the visitor center, and everywhere. You can take a boat ride over. It's for 65-year-olds. For old people like us, it's $12 one way, and that's what we decided to do, and then take the 2-mile walk back around Jenny Lake all the way back to the park. So we're headed that way. If you walk Jenny Lake Trail around from the bottom all the way around to Inspiration Point, it's about a 5.7 mile trip, and that was just a little bit too long for us, so we took the shuttle over, and that made it about a 1.8 or 2 mile hike all the way back around. That's just right for us. The Jenny Lake Trail follows Jenny Lake shoreline all the way back, around 1.5 miles, I guess, back 2 miles to where the original boat launch dock is that brought us over here. So we took a one-way ticket over, and we're walking the way back. That's the most common practice, but I wouldn't miss it, as I would do the same thing again, because it's just absolutely beautiful walking along the shoreline. The water is just crystal clear. Jenny Lake, 80% of the lake is over 200 feet deep. It was carved out by glacier. So, and also it gets so cold here, it has about 5 feet of ice during the winter months. But today, it couldn't be better. 77 degrees, just cool, it's crystal clear, no rain in sight, and just gorgeous walk. There are raspberries growing all along the trail, and if you come the right time of year, you'll see plenty of them. And I'm sure they feed the bears and all the animals here. This would just be like a grocery line. All of these raspberries. Ferns overlooking the lake. Incredible trail. At the southern tip of Jenny Lake is a little trail that forks off called the Moose Pond Trail. It goes down to several little small lakes where you might get to see moose because of the willow trees and other vegetation they like to eat, but we saw beaver dams and other wildlife there. But the best viewing time for moose and wildlife is early in the morning, so that's when you want to be there. But since there wasn't any moose, we decided to head on down the trail and head on back. Well, we have finally made it back to the boat dock. All the way around the lake. It's just beautiful. It's a shallow area where they can launch. Across the bridge here. The boat ride and the hike was by far the best thing we did in Grand Teton National Park. It was incredible, and that's something you just got to do. So try to do this if you can. We pulled out and decided to stop to see a few glaciers. The Teton Glacier pictured here is one of the last glaciers left in Grand Teton National Park. This is the Grand Tetons from the southern view. almost 50 miles of mountains that just shoot straight up out of the valley floor, caused by the valley, the tectonic plate pushing under the mountains and pushing the mountains up. Another really interesting place, just a little east of here, is the Mormon Row. This place is really just incredibly beautiful, and you've probably seen a lot of these barns and houses on postcards and magazines, but imagine that view out back. But the Mormons came here in the late 1890s, early 1900s to homestead here. Imagine farming here around these mountains. Wouldn't it just be absolutely beautiful? It's easy to park here and everything is free, so it's just a great way and a chance to look at the mountains from a distance. We got back in the car and headed north up to the Snake River overlook, where Ansel Adams took his famous picture over the Snake River. Of course, the trees have grown up a little bit, but this is where Ansel Adams took his famous picture, black and white, in 1942. The Oxbow Bend turnout is one of the best places to spot large wildlife. The Snake River bows out here like an oxbow and spreads out a little bit so that you can see a good bit of land and water. Moose like to eat a lot of the willows along here, as well as buffalo and other animals. Well, after a hard day's trail hiking, we decided to come back to Coulter Bay, where we're staying, and have something to eat because we are tired and hungry. So we're going to try the little restaurant this time instead of the cafe that had the pizza, which was excellent. We're going to try maybe a hamburger or see what they have in here at the restaurant. Got it here. Let's see. There's a bison burger, pulled pork sandwich, salads.
Filled except at bar 2-5. So we got to go.
Well, Debbie and I got up early the next morning and headed back south through Jackson Hole Valley and then to the little town of Jackson. I highly recommend, if you can't get a reservation around Jenny Lake, then I would recommend staying in Jackson. Well, here at the little town of Jackson, it's close to the Tetons, close enough that you could actually stay here and actually visit the Teton National Park. And this would be a great, quaint place to hang out and just visit the shops, find a good restaurant. So this wouldn't be a bad idea in case you just wanted to stay here. And it's certainly within driving distance of the national park. You could stay one night there, or maybe one night down here, but this is a quaint, great little place to visit. Even if you stay in the national park, you should come down and try to visit Jackson as well. Well, we're headed out from Teton National Park. As you can see in the background, the beautiful mountains. I'm afraid that Google's probably going to have to build a whole new data center for all of our pictures. But all kidding aside, you know, pictures just don't do it justice. You got to come see this park for yourself. It's one of the most beautiful scenic things we've seen, and it's moved up in my top 10 parks that you got to visit. So come see for yourself. We're headed to the next national park, and thanks for watching Travel Our National Parks.